excited to be here. I'm looking forward to learning from our panel today. And one thing I've learned is you can find an awful lot of things on the internet. So, it's amazing what you can find with just a quick search of the internet. So thank you so much for having me here. And I'd like to start introducing Isaac Kapanga. Now, this is a great pleasure because I had the privilege of knowing Isaac when he was attending Bronx Station, and thrilled to see all that he has done and look forward to learning about that. So Isaac, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Isaac Kapanga, and I work as an IT specialist at Health First Bluegrass. And I am originally from Congo, although I was born and raised in Tanzania and migrated here in 2015. So it's a pleasure to be here with y'all. Thank you so much.
And Braxton, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
My name is Braxton Moulton. I'm the Technical Director of Security at NetGain Technologies. We are an MSP, or a managed service provider, located here in Lexington, Kentucky. We provide IT and cybersecurity services for businesses, small to medium size, across several different verticals: banking, finance, healthcare, manufacturing, you name it.
Thank you. And Liz Rogers, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Liz Rogers. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Lexington Fayette Urban County Government. So, as my mother would say, the head computer lady for the city. We obviously provide a whole slate of technology services to the staff across urban county government, but also do our best to define what the online community looks like and create digital experiences for the residents of Fayette County to bring government a little bit closer to them. So that's us in a nutshell.
Thank you. And we have many questions. Feel free to go in directions that might interest you. And after we've gone through these questions, of course, if you would like to dive deeper into these questions, please speak up. And then when we have gone through these questions, then we can have an open forum for any additional topics you'd like to discuss. Starting with the topic of IT career and skills development, what skills are currently in high demand in the IT industry, and how can individuals prepare for them?
I can start. There's going to be, first of all, in IT, we're talking about a lot of different types of skills that are going to be required. Server administration, networking, cybersecurity, although there's a little asterisk when I talk about cybersecurity and IT that I might get into later, if we have the time or someone asks the right question. I'm going to say networking. So the ability to understand how computers and servers and different softwares interact with each other and communicate, understanding what an IP address is, understanding what DNS is, domain name services, DHCP, dynamic host configuration protocol, how all of that intertwines and how that data sifts back and forth in and out in a network is going to be a key piece and is not going to go away. So getting some foundational knowledge in that sector is going to be very important.
I'll lean into that by saying cybersecurity professionals, full stack software developers, support professionals, like the panel that's assembled here, always going to be in demand. I can't imagine a time when those types of skills aren't going to be in demand. But additionally, has anyone heard anything about AI or read anything about AI in the news? Is anyone tired of it yet? That is creating an ever-increasing demand for data scientists, people with that type of background. Your data has to be healthy in order for a machine to be able to read it and convey it back to a person and make it useful. So I think that even though that has kind of ballooned as an in-demand skill set in the last 10 years or so, I look for that to continue. I think also business skill sets that are near-line to technology, business analysts, project management professionals that are technology conversant or who understand IT a little bit, are always going to be in demand to help connect technology to the business that it's enabling or supporting. And I have to say too, Kentucky received $1 billion in federal grant money last year to run fiber optic cable across the entirety of the state. Fiber optics technicians, certified fiber optics technicians, can earn around $70,000 a year. That's a really good one if you're interested in being outside, and if you're more of a laborer, if you like to work with your hands and you're interested in the physical part of technology, that would be a really good thing to get into, and it is a fairly easy and affordable certification to achieve. So that would kind of be my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and my thoughts on it's more about, for me, it's more about understanding technology and how you can explain it to someone who is not familiar with it. As you know, as IT is growing, technologies are improving, and AI is getting introduced. I believe that it would be important to have someone who can explain a lot of technical stuff to people who are not particularly technical. And also, as more people are going online, more people are now starting to use their computers, elderly to young kids. So I think it's really important if we have someone who can guide them, the best ways how to, navigate on the web and type of things, not to, kind of like type of how you can create your passwords, which could be a safe password, which is not a safe password, and also like what he said, understanding websites, which one is safe, which ones are not safe. It is HTTP, or does it have an S at the end of it? Someone to tell you that. So I think someone who can, translate that, from technology to the basic English. I think that's also important.
And you've already touched on this topic to a degree, but if you would have anything to add, how can someone without a traditional IT background break into the tech industry? And of course, if you'd like to talk about a recent high school or college graduate, that would be of particular interest to me.
Yeah. You want to go first?
I can.
All right.
I'll talk to anybody who wants to listen. So breaking in can be tough. What I think this, probably can be attributed to all jobs or career fields. They're going to want experience. How do I get experience if I don't have experience? That kind of thing, the chicken before the egg and all that. With IT and cybersecurity in general, we have a huge benefit with, we can tack on to education that we receive with like certifications. So getting a degree in IT or cybersecurity is great. It's fantastic. If you can combine that with, doing some studying on your own, putting in some work on your own, getting some certifications that help make your specific knowledge in an area of IT or cybersecurity more robust, that looks great on a resume and can help fill a void where you don't have particular experience in that type of area. We have hired on people that are coming right out of college that have that combination of a degree and a certification, knowing that they have at least some form of foundational knowledge that we can help build and how they can apply that, make that more practical for them. So I know it's tough for all career fields. Like where do I begin? But we at least have that benefit with IT.
Yeah. Just like over here. I mean, you can start over here, just like what we're doing over here, and also what the library is also offering with the Google Learn with Google programs. For me specifically, I started with it in high school, Mr. Lane's class. I remember one of the things that he used to say is get as many certifications as you can. Start where you can and get how many you can get. And also, if there is like a part of IT that you want to dive more deep into, try and see if you can do any project that you can show to a certain employee that employer that I'm actually interested into this, and if you can give me the opportunity, I know that I can even learn from you, even if I don't have everything that's needed. So starting with some certifications, doing anything like learning from online. One thing that 2020 taught us is that we can learn by ourselves, because a lot of times we'll be given assignments and you are home. Sometimes you don't have access to the teacher. So, get online, start Googling some stuff, start understanding what some concepts means and how you can, try to understand and at the end of the day become a technician that can, I guess, be able to use those tools.
I would agree, and there are free learning resources everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you know, the link on the page below, if you have a library card at the Lexington Public Library, there are volumes and volumes of free online learning resources. And my team uses those when they're trying to skill up in a certain area or whatever. I would say if you're not yet settled on a path, if you're just really trying to break through somewhere, just find something interesting and start reading and consuming everything you can about it. IT professionals are really, really prone to burnout. So if you pursue something thinking this is the next big thing or it's going to be lucrative or whatever, you may not enjoy that. You got to find something that you're at least interested, ideally a little bit passionate about, and then just start consuming all the free materials you can, and that typically leads you down usually obtainable certification. A 2-year degree is a great way to kind of break in, get a broad scope of learning under your belt and kind of figure out what you're interested in. It's at your fingertips, fortunately, these days.
And question?
Yes, so for me, it's for a year and a half. I now have a part-time position at the community college, but for being unemployed for a year and a half with with IT background as my service for employment for past 16 years, I could not break into IT or couldn't find a cybersecurity job. So is there something I could have done better to get a job in cybersecurity or IT with my background?
I will admit a lot of that is left on the employers. It's something that we as leaders in the industry kind of need to be reevaluating the value of a traditional education versus a set of certifications versus self-taught skills. Doing anything differently, sometimes it's conditions that are out of your control. But I would say be a little creative about how you frame those skills. Sometimes if you, again, have nearline skills that maybe don't 100% match up with what you see on the job posting, but could prepare you for a role like that. Oftentimes people hesitate to go after those.
Yeah,
And I would say not to
some of the
hesitate.
jobs that I applied for was asking 5 years of experience. Even though I was in IT, I didn't have 5 years of experience in cybersecurity. So
Right.
some
You
of
may
the-
have without knowing it. You may have had some experience without knowing it, so,
Right.
yeah.
Did you have like any like potentially like projects listed on your resume, anything like that you might have like put together on your own?
I'm graduating next year, so I have one project lined up. I'm going to work on, I just got a Flipper Zero, so I'm going to work as my
Perfect.
project.
Yeah. So maybe go that direction. Think about like, can I put together like a home lab and do some basic things and maybe have like almost like how an artist would have like a portfolio put together. Like, can I have like record like a demo of me doing something, showing that I do have like a little bit more practical knowledge and not just like the education behind it. That might be the next step that you could take to try to help you. It's not easy, but
Yeah, I do participate in CTFs from
Sure.
different collegiate levels, so I have that in my projects.
excellent. Okay. That would be what I would say, maybe put some focus to, potentially.
Yeah, especially also like doing home labs. I think that's also important because a lot of time, I don't know, for me personally, I learn better and I understand things better by doing them. And once I've done something, I can be able to, let's say if I'm in a interview, I can be able to explain something way better because I've done it before versus just, learning it. Yeah, so that would be from me.
Oh, I'm going to add to volunteer work. is a great way if your church or some nonprofit group that you're interested in or involved with needs some on the side help. That's a really great way to kind of earn some experience. It's unfortunately typically unpaid, but it's a good way to get a little experience under your belt.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't think we have too many volunteer works here in town, which provides like, for instance, B-sides. B-sides is everywhere. I don't think we have B-sides in Lexington. So I volunteer B-sides in Indiana, where we didn't have that here. I would be willing to volunteer if we had it. And I also think that there's some kind of like, well, minority is missing. Like, I don't see too many women in IT. I could be wrong, but I'm teaching, so in my class, there are only 3 out of 15 students, there are only 3 girls.
Well,
So-
and you're very correct on that. And at the high school level, and at the college level as well, you know,
Yeah.
recruiting women and encouraging them can be challenging. But I tell the students that there's great opportunity. Every employer I've worked with, you know, wants a diverse workforce. They want equity, but it has been difficult to recruit women. And I was just moving forward a little bit. Trying to look towards the future, are there trends that have caught your attention recently that you're studying, or things that you are watching to evolve over the next couple of years as we all try to predict where things are going and prepare ourselves for future opportunities?
Liz, you brought up AI earlier. Did you have one on that before I just start
Oh,
talking?
gosh. Yeah, that's
We'll be
a
here
whole
all day.
other panel discussion.
Yeah.
I would say with AI, with things like low-code, no-code software platforms, things like robotic process automation, I think what's going to be sort of a set-apart skill set for technology workers is, again, to be tech conversant, but be business savvy as well. We were having a conversation just prior to starting about how oftentimes the work and some of the responsibilities associated with your firm's governance, risk, and compliance approach is seen as a technology thing. It sort of is, sort of isn't. But developing skill sets like that are in demand and are sort of residing in gaps in different organizations, I think that would be a good investment. I think it would be a good investment of time to develop a little bit of skill around different compliance frameworks that the company you're interested in working for has to align with, and knowing what the technology implications of that are and what the business implications of that are, and how you can build your technology work product with those things in mind. That's just, in my observation, kind of a consistent gap that I've seen across a lot of businesses, where the business folks are focused on their day-to-day operations, the IT folks are focused on the keeping lights on, the daily care and feeding of the technology things. There's a little bit of a gap in the middle that sort of defines how that technology enables that business that people sometimes don't fit into. So that's a good one, I think.
I got a quick question. So you mentioned AI, and is there any concern that it's going to take over most of this? I mean, I've been doing technology for a long time. You're talking about the gaps. How do you know which gaps are going to be gaps, or AI is going to fill those gaps?
I don't think AI is going to take away technology jobs writ large. I think AI is going to take away the toil that's associated with a lot of technology jobs. It's capable of taking repetitive, routine processes off the plate of a human so that the human can do the things that need a human touch. Like the things we're talking about. Things like working with your business associates to make sure, is this working for you? How do we need to build this? What's it need to look like? So no, I think what AI is going to do is free people from the things that don't really fill their cup anyway.
but can it also kind of bleed over into the cybersecurity part, like where you're going doing scans all day looking for stuff? You know,
Oh,
everything
yeah.
I read, that's something it's obviously gonna do, so that part of cybersecurity, you stay away from it, you got something
No,
else there.
Yeah, you gotta tell her
AI,
where to look.
AI, machine learning has been in use for cybersecurity tools for, I mean, at least 5 years, probably more. What AI does, kind of like what Liz mentioned, it makes us more effective, more efficient, more productive. Same thing for cybersecurity. Think about like, all right, I'm going to try to keep this concise, I promise. Think of like a SIEM. A SIEM is a security incident and event management appliance. It takes all of the events and data points that are happening in an environment and in a network and aggregates them all into one place, provides you a platform so that a human, like an IT administrator or a cybersecurity professional, can look at it and say, okay, here's some weird stuff that's happening in my network. What's going on? Millions, billions potentially of data points, things that a human is not going to be able to parse in a year, let alone a day, let alone 10 minutes. AI helps us with that. It provides us the ability to look at what's happening in near real time and say, this is strange, you need to look into this. And in some cases, provide us the ability to remediate it automatically, or to just tell us what we need to do to make sure that it's remediated. There are good things with AI. There are concerns with AI, absolutely. So I do think that it's not something we want to try to stay away from. We need to embrace it, because if the good guys don't embrace it, the bad guys are going to embrace it. So it's not gonna go away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we will really need to embrace, and you can think of it like as a tool. You can think of it as a tool. Instead of, I don't know, for example, going through a lot of sites to look for solutions. You can ask it to give you like a track on how you can find the solution. And also, I don't know if when the CrowdStrike thing happened, I mean, I don't think AI can replace a lot of technicians that worked like so many hours just to fix that same issue. I don't think it can do that. So for me, I really believe that it's something that we can use to improve our work, to make things efficient, but it really will not replace us. Even like, even someone in support. Fortunately, I didn't have to deal with it because my company was not using CrowdStrike. A year back, I think they didn't implement it. But for someone that I know that had that issue, they could not sleep because they had like almost 5,000 PCs that they had to go and look over. So I don't think AI can do that. But
The
you can
technician
use it.
caused that problem too, though, right?
They did. They did do that. But nothing is perfect. But yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, AI is very accessible. I talk with some of the software developers I used to work with, and they will tell me, it can get you started. It's not going. It is kind of what you said. It can help. It's a tool.
Definitely.
And of course, I often find high school students who say, "Oh, wow, this can do everything." Well, it can get you started. But
Yeah, it can get
will
you
not-
started.
It will not produce a completed project.
Nope.
Now, one of the questions I am curious about, we already worked a little ahead on topics related to AI. We see the term blockchain used with regard to cryptocurrency. Do you see that having any impact in your IT fields, in your security fields?
Not yet. Right now, when it comes to cybersecurity, my biggest issue with cryptocurrency is someone getting like a crypto miner installed on their machine, and someone mining Bitcoin that they're not aware of. That's the biggest issue. I think the things that we see with like the blockchain coming out, or like Web3, is that there's going to be some improvements with like authentication, additional like robustness with like security protocols and things like that. But I just don't think we're there yet. I really think it's going to have to take like maybe even the United States, like starting to really like, all right, let's talk about Bitcoin and take crypto very, very seriously before we see like blockchain technologies or anything like that becoming more widespread.
I have to say, I don't, I'm so skeptical about blockchain technology being able to go anywhere aside from the financial sector. I do think it has practical applications in traditional banking, but financial institutions, you may know as an MSP, are notoriously slow to move, and they are notoriously risk averse. These are not leading edge, let me get the next big thing into my portfolio people. Does everybody know what blockchain is? So essentially it's for cryptocurrency, it's a ledger, like your check register you would keep. These are the transactions that have happened, except it gets wiped out frequently, such that when you have an asset, its history is only known by the people who own it, by the people who have access to that information. Simplest sum up I can give. You guys might be able to do better.
It's nebulous.
I think the dream for it was essentially that you could use that for other pieces of your identity. That you could have sort of an online identity that is yours for your life and
Yes.
is protected by way of this technology. I don't see it in my lifetime becoming that. I do see, again, I see practical applications for banking. If traditional banks can take that leap, if they can get there. But I'm even skeptical about that happening in the next 10 years. They're so hands-off on new stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just like they said, the only thing that I've heard about blockchain is just in that business environment, in that finance environment. That's the only thing that I've heard about it. So it's not something that I look into. It's for now, it's not something that I really look into or even think about it. As a teenager, it's only something as a joke, just as a meme or something like that. Just meme coins, bitcoins, all of that. Just that's all it is for me right now. But I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look maybe 20 years from now, maybe 50 years from now. But for now, it's just that.
Something I'd really like to get your input on is the topic of big data, data science. Obviously, we're moving into a data, well, we've been in a data society for a long time.
Yeah.
We have these big data sets. There's certainly work in managing them. There's emerging opportunities for adults and recent graduates. What's your perception on big data, how it's affecting us, and opportunities it might present?
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
I'm a data nerd. Big data, what would we say, 10, 12 years ago? Big data was sort of the thing of the moment. All these tools emerged that could handle gobs and gobs and gobs and mountains of data that you could collect from every line of business you were operating in. Instead of just having a sample set, you have everything. And you can, the tools that emerged during that time frame allowed you to make sense of it quickly. You didn't have to go through spreadsheets. You didn't have to, peer through different windows to see how your programs are performing, for instance, from a government perspective. You now have all of it, and you can start to pair it together in ways that really reveal some truths about how you're operating. That AI cannot be a thing without big data being a thing. Big data had to happen.
Yeah.
And had to be the order of the day before anything AI can happen. It is one of the things that is so exciting to me because it brings, I work in government, so we have data in this silo and this program and this division over here and that over there. Oftentimes inside that silo, we use that. We use that to say, how many fires did we have around the city last month? How many calls out from the police or public safety did we have? How many people did we arrange housing for last month? When you start to pair those things together is when you really start to learn from, again, my perspective, the impact you're having on the community you're serving. So, yeah, we had this many fires last month. Is there any association between those fires and code enforcement violations that live over here? So those are the things that I find very inspiring. The big data tool sets are the things that allowed all those opportunities to happen. And the big data tool sets are the things that have allowed AI to emerge as the big new thing. So if you are remotely interested in things like that, I know data science sounds incredibly boring. Go get a 4-year degree in data science. To some people, would sound just really a tough hill to climb. But those are the types of things. Those are the types of things you get to do if you have that skill set. And I think it's so cool.
Perfect.
Well, some of the conversations we had just before sitting at the table regarding cybersecurity, and of course you see things in the news, you see things in movies that are not even close to reality. What do you think are some common misconceptions about cybersecurity? What is the reality of cybersecurity to you? And again, if people are excited about becoming involved, what sort of things could they study or explore to better understand what cybersecurity really is?
Okay, we've had bits and pieces, so we've talked about this throughout the questions so far, and we were just talking about this before we even started. Okay, so cybersecurity is like IT's cousin. It's not just IT. There are massive IT components to it, absolutely. But there is also risk management. There is challenges to a business. I honestly consider myself more in the lines of I help you do your business than I do help you do your IT. Rub shoulders a lot with IT admins because there are IT controls in things like cybersecurity frameworks and compliance and regulations, HIPAA, the FFIEC, the FDIC, the OCC, for banks. They have different types of security controls and regulations that are required. The DoD, so government sector, has specific controls that are required. A lot of those are IT, but not all of them. Things like, what are we going to do when a tornado hits our business and takes out our main headquarters? IT infrastructure is gone, absolutely. But what about the people? What's happening to our employees? What are we going to do to get operations back online? Do we have an alternate location? Do we have a backup system? Do we have a disaster recovery solution? IT controls, but there was also a little bit of other things. There was policy and procedure, and sometimes I sit down with like C-level people at a business and I ask them, if you're offline for a week, are you still going to be around? And they don't know sometimes. It's interesting when you pose that question to them because they think that buying a firewall or they think that buying an antivirus solution and installing it on their devices is going to be the be-all, end-all. If it was, I would not be sitting here. Okay? So it's not just IT. There's a huge portion of it. In terms of skills and things that I would recommend you look into, learning cybersecurity frameworks is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Understanding pieces for compliance and those different types of controls is going to be very important. Looking into certifications that have huge pieces for risk management and understanding like policies and procedures and what's going to be required is going to be crucial to you as a cybersecurity professional. I'll stop for that one, so someone else has a chance. But
Yeah. Like he said, even someone in IT, right now I'm looking into the cybersecurity course offered by Google because I see the importance of it, and it's really important, like to understand it, cybersecurity, and understand how to keep, all of our equipment safe, really, all of our networks and everything, how to keep them safe. Because if they hit, if one of them are hit or any of them are hit, I don't know, our networks, EMR is down, all the nurses are calling, we can't access patients' data and everything like that. So, yeah, I think it's even more important to understand it for business or even like a clinic, like where I work, for it to be up safe and working every single day and be able to, provide the services that it does to the community. Yeah, that'll be mine.
And I'm actually glad that Isaac mentioned the Google resources.
Yeah.
There are so many wonderful resources that you had mentioned that are freely available to anyone.
Yeah.
The library can give you access to these Google courses. They're meant for adults. I encourage high school students to work with them, and they're available to anybody. And even if you don't want to change careers, I think it's just very useful and interesting to be educated and informed. So I appreciate Isaac mentioning that.
Yeah.
And we had talked about IT, and I think it's a broad term, but it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. You were talking about IT within the context of city government, but we talked about IT in healthcare. How does IT change as you go from one application to another?
Some things remain.
Okay.
Cybersecurity in the strictest sense remains. You have to protect your edge computing resources. So laptops, mobile phones, all the things that people use to attach to your data assets. You have to train your people how to use, handle, share, protect those data assets as per some compliance framework or some best practice. Those are the definitions that change across verticals. So some of those things are consistent across the board, just the way we do business. And then in the between lines, in the finer sense, there are massive differences in the compliance frameworks you have to be aware of in order to, operate and not go to prison. There are different layers and levels of risks. Those are the scopes that kind of change, and that's where some of the business acumen, understanding the business that you're supporting and working with, needs to come into play. Those are the finer things between the lines that really put the points on your cybersecurity capability specifically, I think.
Now, I have many more questions, but I want to make sure we leave time for any questions that may have bubbled up in your mind. Does anybody have specific questions that have bubbled up in their minds? Yes, ma'am.
So how is the city of Lexington modernizing their tech stack, and how do you recommend people kind of keep up with things that are coming up and how things evolve and stay in demand?
For the city, so we can't do it all at once. Lexington, so I've been there just a little bit over a year. I started in this role in May of 2023, and I did find a lot of legacy technology applications that sort of didn't grow with the city. The city from the year 2000 to the year 2020 grew. It became a little bit younger. It certainly became much more technology conversant, many more online interactions are in demand now than they were that long ago. So we've had to kind of take a strategic approach about where there is an appetite for something more modern among not just the residents, but the staff. There's some legacy staff there too. Sometimes introducing that sort of change is challenging for people who've done work the same way for 20 years. So we have to look at the cost of doing it and not doing it, the risk of doing it and not doing it, the benefits of not doing it to the residents and to the staff, and then be very strategic about where we make our investments. Fortunately, some of the things that I've tried to do and been mostly successful with since I started there is we had a lot of sprawl, what's referred to as sprawl, where this part of the organization went out and purchased that, or made that partnership, or made that investment in whatever. what does that do to your threat surface in cybersecurity?
Oh, yeah, we have no idea who has what.
It's all over the place.
Right.
Your data is all over the place. It's really hard to protect if you don't know what it is and where it is. So we've tried to consolidate some of those different work streams so that they're kind of on unified platforms that we have a little more control over. I'm very excited to say we'll be launching a new public website before the end of this year with a little fresher designs, but also much improved navigation and content. So yeah, it's a balance of what can we do, what should we do, like what's the most meaningful thing to work on, and then just picking away at that in a way that aligns with the mayor's strategy, forward strategy for the city, what she wants to see, and with my colleagues across the other, public works, public safety, all the other lines of business in the city. That's what we've been working on.
Is there a website for the openings and stuff that are coming up, or is there any now?
For career opportunities? Yes, that's on our public, lexingtonky.gov. It's on our public website. You can go in there and take a look around at not just IT, but opportunities all over the city. I will say too, we talked about volunteering earlier. Commerce Lexington has a list of nonprofits in the area, hundreds, I think, on the list, and they always post volunteer opportunities there.
Yeah, I would like to see more women coming into cybersecurity or coming into IT. Because there's a lot of gap between male and a female.
It's true.
Yeah. So.
One question? Well, one question I see, we talked a bit about businesses and ways businesses can avoid cyber threats, ransomware, and of course that is very relevant and educational. I think it's also, if you would share any advice to just us living our ordinary lives, what are some ways that either businesses can protect themselves and we can protect ourselves?
Okay. Okay, let's talk about ourselves. So when I was growing up, which I'm only 30, I've got some gray though, but when I was growing up, I was told a lot to be careful what you put about yourself on the internet, be careful, what you read on the internet. And now that everyone has, your mobile phone, which is, could send people to the moon 20 times over, that never went away, but I feel like that narrative of be careful about what you post, because everyone's on Facebook, everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on TikTok, everyone's on a lot of different platforms that are really interested in taking your email address or your name or your data, and
Where
people
you've been, who you're friends with.
people are a little bit more lax about it, and they shouldn't be. So that never really went away. So probably one thing that just cybersecurity professionals in general could do is really help try to reinforce that idea some more. For businesses, it would be, please do not treat your cybersecurity or your IT as an expense that you can use at the end of your budgetary year. We are one of the most important things you need to invest in, because if you cannot operate, you don't make money. So when it comes to ransomware, there are lots of different specific technical solutions, like a next-gen antivirus solution that can contain endpoints. Something called MDR, which is Managed Detection and Response, or XDR, which is Extended Detection and Response. I referred to a SIM earlier. That is essentially an extension of that. Taking all of the data points that happen within your network and maybe sending that data to like a 24/7 security operations center. So there is at all times on staff a human that's able to take a look at what's provided to you for immediate response and detection. And having good backup architecture, making sure that your data is backed up so that if it's ever lost, you can restore it in a timely manner, and disaster recovery solutions, so that if an actual headquarters or location is lost, we have something readily available that we can stand up in a different location and continue our operations in a timely manner. So it's a combination of things. We talk about a multi-layered approach or defense in depth with cybersecurity. Unfortunately, there's no foolproof solution. So it's got to be a combination of several different things.
Yeah, and You can have all of that, but if you have a weak password, it's just all not going to be as safe. So also make sure you create a strong password. At least have some numbers, some characters, have it in there, and do not use the same passwords for everything. I've actually learned from that. I've had experience with that, so I learned not to use the same password for everything, and do not include anything that's related to identity, like your name or anything, your date of birth, anything. Do not include in the password. I've had to tell this my father a lot, but yeah, do not please include a new password on anything, because sometimes you might use a password for Facebook, and let's say a hacker might just hack into your Facebook that easily, and then you might use the same password for your bank account, and now that's the issue over there. If they can just hack into your Facebook just like that, better believe they will do the same thing on your bank account. And I'm kind of happy that banks these days are kind of more, they're more aware of that. But the first security or the first security wall is actually you.
Yep.
Before everything else, like first make sure you understand that you're the most important part of that wall. So make sure you have everything, you understand, and you have strong passwords. And if a child, you can tell your child your password and they don't forget it, then it's not really a strong password. So yeah.
Education for employees is
Yeah.
incredibly important. Social engineering, staying cyber aware. Everyone knows what phishing is, right? Phishing email. So when we talk about social engineering, maybe they might send you a phishing email and try to convince you that this is a really important thing that you need to click on or provide data for. And the moment you do, now you're compromised and there's going to be a huge issue.
Yeah.
They might call and ask you some really innocent sounding questions just to get some personal information about you. So be careful about, what when you answer the phone, what questions are they asking? Don't provide anything about yourself that you wouldn't tell anybody, a stranger anyway. And think of it like this. As Isaac mentioned, you are in some cases the first and the last line of defense. But if I'm standing on one side of a door, I don't want you to come in. I put 27 locks on my door. It's going to be really hard for you to pick each of those locks and get in and this and that. Great. You might get in eventually, but it's going to take a very, very long time. But if you're on the other side of the door and you convince me that you're my mom or somebody, well, I'm not going to keep my mom out. So I'm going to open every single one of those locks and just let you right in.
Just like that.
That's no skill or talent involved in that at all. That's just convincing me to let you in. So.
Keep-
We'll send us emails to make sure that we don't fall for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I do see it at school, and I think most workplaces, they will send you tempting emails to test you. That's a pretty common
Yeah,
practice.
we do that sometimes.
We'll test you.
So we just there's this one website where we did it for the what was the not Thanksgiving, one of the holidays that just passed. So 4th of July. Yeah, we were like for the 4th of July, we're having a barbecue. Just access these websites. And whenever you click on the website, it just tells you you just got fished, you guys fished, but something like that. Make sure you check the email that you received. Do you know this person? And if you know this person, can you check at least that they don't have some names that doesn't make sense, like Isaac 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and something like that. Try and check it. Try and check if it's from Gmail or from other email servers that you do not know. So just to keep yourself secure more.
If there's any urgency in the message,
Yeah.
if there is a call to action or else, like click here and blah, 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 or
Yeah.
that is almost always bad. That is never, ever, ever fall for that one. If it's your bank and whatever, you're concerned about your stuff getting shut down,
Call it.
Call bank.
Yeah.
Call bank, using the
Call
number,
the
you
bank.
know, the known number that you've got stored in your phone or that appears on the back of your credit card.
Yeah.
Very interesting topics. An hour passes quickly. I very much want to thank Liz, Braxton, Isaac for being with us. Are there any questions for the group? So really, thank you for being here with us.